Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only game news show brave enough to pour one out for Cuckold Princess.
I think the Cuckold Princess was pouring one out too. If you catch my meaning. Ah, damn, yeah, that's pretty. I didn't know where I was going with that, but it didn't go somewhere good. Just like a lot of software, we've lost some treasured contributions to the arts, haven't we, Bruce?
I mean, that's debatable, but either way, let's launch into this story because it's a very detailed, in-depth story. Steam and now indie game hosting service Itch.io have removed adult games in response to pressure from payment provider services.
Yes, this has been developing for a while, just 3 or 4 weeks at this point. So we'll cover what happened, the news, is what we do here. Cover that first and then get into some more of the circumstantial stuff. It's getting into culture war territory, concerns about censorship, free speech, etc. So this is becoming a pretty big topic.
Yeah, that's right. So let's start with Steam. We talked about this very briefly last week, but let's get more into the details of this. The adult game No Mercy launched on Steam on March 22nd. The game contains violence against women, incest, blackmail, and what they describe as unavoidable, non-consensual sex.
Weirdly long and descriptive phrase for another word that we already have, but I guess we're trying to avoid saying it, so okay.
Sure.
The games, so just in case you're curious what kind of video game we're dealing with here, this is how the game's original description read, quote, No Mercy is a 3D choice-driven adult visual novel with a huge focus on incest and male domination. After your mother's affair shatters your family, you take on a new role. Not to fix what's broken, but to claim her for yourself. Unveil her deepest secrets, subdue her, and make all women yours.
All right, and then Lawrence, it was later revised to what?
No Mercy is a 3D choice-driven adult visual novel about love and passion. Heart emoji? Yeah. There was a reason they tried to make their appearance a little less antagonistic.
Yeah, Lawrence, you were digging around in SteamDB, so nicely done on that to find what they actually meant.
British outlet LBC ran an article on April 9th reporting that they, quote, created a Steam account with full access to adult content by simply ticking boxes claiming to be 18 plus and were able to download No Mercy for £10.
Yeah, the game was removed from Steam in the UK on April 10th, with No Mercy developers Zerat Games removing the game entirely on April 11th.
And within the last week or so, we're not sure exactly when, there was a new sort of guideline added to what you're not supposed to upload to Steam. And this most recent rule, all the way at the bottom, says that you're not supposed to upload, quote, content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers. In particular, certain kinds of adult-only content. That's really vague. That's really vague.
It is really, really vague. They're clearly pointing at No Mercy and those types of games. So a lot of the games featuring incest were removed from Steam on July 16th, and at a very informal count, very informal, around 20 games removed or delisted. Lawrence, you want to read those hood classics?
Yeah. We lost some real treasures. Things like Succubus in Wonderland, Cuckold Princess, as we called out. Sex-loving family, and this is the cherry on top. Heavenly Badonkers Angel Bitches.
Man, oh man, rip. Rip.
Those heavenly badonkers are resting with the angels now.
Valve sent a statement to PC Gamer on July 18th, which dryly confirmed these events. They said, quote, we were recently notified that certain games on Steam may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors and their related card networks and banks. As a result, we are retiring those games from being sold on the Steam store.
There you go, open and shut. In the wake of all these adult game delistings on Steam, in the last couple of days, I kind of saw this on social media, folks were noticing that 18 and up games were no longer showing up in search on the indie games hosting site itch.io.
It was a sudden site-wide shadow ban of those games. Unlike Valve, Itch posted a public update this morning.
Yeah, the statement specifically names the No Mercy game, which was available on Itch as well before being banned back in April. And this time explicitly in connection with the Australian nonprofit organization Collective Shout.
Yeah, so Itch references the campaign from Collective Shout against both themselves and Steam, directing payment processors in this case sort of means like Visa or MasterCard, people that are taking the payment. They directed these payment processors to some of the services' less savory content.
Yes, yeah. We'll cover more about Collective Shout in a minute, because that's where it gets a little spicy, but just for now, we're sticking to the news.
Yeah, that's right. So itch.io claims to have no choice here, saying, quote, to ensure that we can continue to operate and provide a marketplace for all developers, we must prioritize our relationship with our payment partners and take immediate steps towards compliance.
Yeah, so Itch has basically announced that they're auditing all of the adult content on their site to make sure that it complies. And while that audit is happening, all of that content will remain de-indexed. So you just really won't be able to search for it or find it.
Right, so once approved, the adult content will be subject to new compliance measures, like a step in which creators confirm their content is allowable under the policies of those related payment processors.
To conclude, Itch pretty bluntly writes that part of this review will see some pages being permanently removed from itch.io.
Okay, so let's get into the collective shout portion of this. They're the ones that I think have started to motivate the payment processors to then jump on itch.io and Steam and get rid of those games. So, collective shout has claimed partial responsibility for these events.
Yeah, for the organization itself, in case you're wondering, they are, quote, against the objectification of women and the sexualization of girls in media, advertising, and popular culture.
That's great. Thumbs up for that, right? Okay, all right. They initially claimed victory over the removal of No Mercy from Steam, posting way back on April 12th that, quote, more than 3,000 emails to Steam CEO Gabe Newell and 70,000 signatures on our petition had resulted in No Mercy's removal.
The organization expanded their efforts in early July, posting an open letter directed towards the executives at PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, and other payment providers.
This open letter calls out hundreds of other games featuring rape, incest, and child sexual abuse on both Steam and itch.io that would violate Australian classification law.
Collective Shout then celebrated the wider removal of games on Steam on July 19th. They wrote, quote, on Monday we counted almost 500 games tagged with rape or incest. Today there are 81. We want to see them all gone. So, Collective Shout claims to have both started the movement, fueled the actions, and then is, claiming the results as a win and, wanting to go further with it. So, Itch is saying they're the ones. They're saying they're the ones. I guess they're the ones.
They are the ones. And I'm also going to say, by the way, I'm glad that the games with rape and incest are gone. I'm fine with that. But we'll get into this now, more the opinion part of this episode in a second, because obviously it's a slippery slope. All right. Ex-Waypoint writer Anna Valens published 2 articles talking about Collective Shout.
Yeah, those articles were removed with inverse reporting that Waypoint owner Savage Ventures described those articles as a, quote, legal risk.
Oh, wow. Valens resigned, along with a majority of Waypoint's writing staff, and over these removed articles. They did it almost right away, too. It was like it happened within the day, I want to say. Yeah,
so that's kind of where we're at with all the fallout right now. Adult content has been delisted from Itch, a gaggle of incest-themed games have been removed from Steam, and a lot of Waypoint's writing staff has voluntarily resigned along with Valens in protest of having these articles removed. You can find those articles, there are archive links to them, by the way, in the description of the episode if you're curious about reading them. But yes, there's layers to this, isn't there?
Boy, oh boy.
We'd like to believe that, all art is beautiful and can say something and contribute to the human experience somehow. That's not quite how it is in the real world. We like free speech, but we also don't necessarily enjoy or even want to propagate some of the odious and terrible things represented in some of these games. Yeah. I'll leave it up to you, Bruce. I have like some thoughtable questions written down here, but you got thoughts.
I have thoughts only because obviously, personally, I don't want to see any games that encourage rape. At all. 0. And so I'm fine with Steam pulling those down. But there's a huge but here. The idea that payment processors can get lobbied by any organization. Let's say they get lobbied by an organization to say we want more rape games. And then the payment processor is like, okay, cool. Go make more rape games. Like, that would be bad too. So I don't think that we should, any of us, I think we should all be worried about the fact that Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, whatever, is now seemingly not in control of Itch and Steam and lots of other companies that use these payment processors, but they are able to, sort of put their foot down or like apply some pressure, and then Steam's like, okay, all right, we'll get rid of those games. Like, again, me personally, having a child and a daughter, like, I don't want those games anywhere near the internet. They're not good for anybody, literally nobody. But the way this happened is bad, Lawrence. And I don't think that, I feel like most people are probably going to say we should probably figure out a way to not have payment processors apply pressure to these stores so that they can take down whatever they want. Because then we start to get into the slippery slope of, well, they've decided that LGBTQ games are bad. And then they get rid of all those. Oh, they've decided that games with violence are bad. Like, I don't think that'll ever happen, but it could. And then we're in for some real trouble.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I guess what concerns me is this is one of those situations, especially looking at how Steam handled it, that it seems to have handled it pretty well. Adult content is still on Steam. Games featuring incest are still on Steam. I'm not arguing on behalf of porn, just more like they seem to have a better handle on the content on their own store. What Itch had to do, delist everything and then audit everything, that's scarier. Itch is a very broad platform, so there's no way they can interrogate everything that gets uploaded to the site, but certainly they have to know what's on there now, just because the lens got shown a little brightly. I guess what concerns me is, slippery slope problems. I've played games that have adult themes in them. Phantasmagoria has a rape scene in it, but that's not what the game's about, and you don't play it because you want to jerk off to somebody getting sexually assaulted. The difference is very hard to define. You know, it's one of those I know porn when I see it kind of situations. And on that note, I agree with you, Bruce. I think there's kinds of adult entertainment pornography that are reprehensible. They're damaging. But I do think that there are ways to have very heavy, damaging themes in a larger work of adult art that can say something about it. You know, movies like Poor Things, not saying it's a great film or that you have to like it, but it was more than just, you know, creepiness for creepiness' sake. Or something like Old Boy, partial spoilers, but it's an old film. So there's a world where that can happen. And what worries me about organizations like this is they tend to not make that distinction. They'll come for the porn, and then once they find a mandate and momentum, it tends to blow right through to, you know, less salacious but still titillating forms of art, and then right over into, you know, works of art that have some kind of meaning, but it all gets swept up in you know, moralistic concern. So when I roll that back, okay, Steam, hard to find an issue with how that played out, even if, like you, Bruce, I'm a little worried that even Steam they were driven to their knees right away. So yeah, if the payment processor say we'll cut you off, that's, your business shuts down overnight. So what can they do? But it is scary to think that, yeah, those are the companies that really hold the balls of the universe.
There's a couple of things we could do, Lawrence. So there's a actionable stuff here that you can do. Number one is you can, you know, write your lawmaker, call your lawmaker, and start talking to them about the control that lobby groups have over payment processors. And you could say, hey, I don't think this is good. I think we should go the other way, because that's what happened. Collective Shout started their own petition, and they petitioned PayPal and Visa and MasterCard, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll change it. So you could do the same on the other side of it. You could say, hey, whoa, we want them to not control what we see on these storefronts. So do that. I really recommend that you do that if you want to try and stop what the censorship is, those sorts of things. And number two, the worst part about this is it's not really covered under free speech because these are companies. So the companies can do whatever they want, right? Payment processors, Steam, itch.io, and I say that I know in the most idealistic society, they could do whatever they want. They could censor, just like Facebook did for years with all the Cambridge Analytica bullshit, right? Like they did that for years, and I think they were fined, right? But they weren't shut down. So what I'm getting at, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it is true. This is what you can do, is you can start your own storefront. You can start your own payment processor. I know that sounds insane, but a lot of the times, these sorts of things that happen in business actually do motivate people to go and make their own thing that is free from these, you know, like these grubby little fingers. So I know it's a much harder ask than calling your lawmaker, but there are things you could do to get around it because it's fortunately not covered under free speech. It is censorship, but it's not covered under free speech because they're companies and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and those companies are liable for the content that they're vending. Throwing back to Napster, I guess. Bruce, what you're describing is a degenerate store that takes payment in crypto, I think, because crypto ain't regulated, baby. So there's no payment provider to step on anyone's neck. But if you think about the okay, in principle, we've got technologies enabling a free speech utopia, right? But what that means is that, do you ever really want to go to that store? I mean, if proper adult entertainment somehow gets Margaret Thatchered off of Steam entirely, leaving people no choice, like if all that's there is like Christian games and praying simulators, then yeah, you're probably going to want to trade in some dollar for crypto and go buy a real game on a like pirate store. But that's in the oil pile at the bottom of the slippery slope, and it's hard to imagine getting there. Where truly, if I think about the practicalities of where we're at now, yeah, a crypto store is going to be loaded with the most like pedophilic garbage, and I wouldn't want to be next to that. I wouldn't want something that I worked hard on and that I think has merit, apart from just being pornographic, next to that stuff, and it'd be a shame that if it's driven there. But I guess there is an outlet. So yeah, it's one of the. It's funny because I'm reminded of Stop Killing Games, a thing I said that I didn't want to talk about, but thinking about the principle and the practical application, there's a pretty wide gulf there. The principle worries me. The practical application, where I look at these games and I'm like, this has no redemptive value for anyone. Yeah, the service is improved by it being gone, really. In this specific hyper scenario. Yes, it's easy to extrapolate, but it didn't happen yet. So, yeah, be vigilant, I guess. But, it's such an interesting conflict, right?
This is a really nuanced topic that we can't cover in a 20-minute episode. And the censorship, the free speech, there's just so many different analogies and things that are floating around in my head that I don't want to bother to get into because we don't have the time. And I'm sorry. We don't have the time. And this has been debated for hundreds of years. It's like, this is like not necessarily where we are going to solve things. That's why I was trying to give you actionable items. Number one is call your lawmaker, and you start telling them, hey, I don't want payment processors to control what I buy. They're just there to take my money. Like Lawrence said, they are liable, and that's the catch, right? Like that's the thing that we have to start. Like maybe there's some government regulations that could jump in and say, hey, Visa and MasterCard, you're not liable if somebody buys a rape game and then rapes somebody. I don't know. I'm not sure. Right? I know. This is what I mean. Like there's so much nuance to this.
Someone's got to be, right? Buck stops somewhere. Yeah.
And that's the thing, Lawrence. I don't know where. But I would say mostly most people, especially on the internet, we're all about free speech. We're all about no censorship, et cetera, et cetera. So, and in principle, I totally am. And I would look, hey, if there's some disgusting storefront that only takes crypto and I never have to get anywhere near it, whatever, I don't like that it exists, but it exists somewhere. And I would hopefully, how do I say this? I would hope that it's not easy to get to. I would hope that people just don't happen upon it, right? We could argue the merits of whether or not those games are actually good for your soul and good for humanity. And again, that's more nuance here that I don't think we can get into. But that just generally speaking, when it comes to free speech, that's sort of what you could do.
That's some great common sense there, Bruce. Honestly, with my perception, I think that's kind of the status quo. Is that you have to go down some seedy back alleys to find the real degenerate stuff, which. Good. It probably shouldn't be allowed to be out in the sunshine. But if you really want it, it's there, I guess. Speaking of, well, I shouldn't make this implication, but we have a few patrons that are brave enough to never sign out of friends on Steam, no matter what they play. Oh yeah. Red and 003 and Hot Date. Maybe we don't need to know what you're playing all the time, but thank you for being open and honest. Free speech.